Barry, welcome to Aussie Indian.
A pleasure.
Come 26th, if you are elected to the government, your slogan, Restart New South Wales, how would you start it? What are your priorities, Barry?
Well, the first priority has to be rebuilding the state's economy, because the economy provides opportunities. It provides opportunities for people to have jobs, it provides opportunities for people to pursue dreams, but it also generates revenue for government to provide the reliable services that people need to get on with their lives. So, we have a 5-point action plan which is about rebuilding the economy, restoring services, quality services like hospitals, like schools, like policing, rebuilding the infrastructure that people rely upon, restoring honesty and accountability to government, and re-empowering people, making people more able to make decisions for themselves within government services.
Sydney, of course, is a global city, and Sydney has lost its gloss in the last 10 years because of lack of infrastructure. And in fact, some of the businesses I talked to, they are moving away from Sydney to Brisbane, Melbourne, and even overseas like Singapore. What's your plan to restore Sydney to its old glory?
Well, I want Sydney not just to be the premier city in this country, but the premier city in our region. And so it's about ensuring that we have the infrastructure required. That's why we've committed ourselves to the new convention exhibition space, because that, in attracting tourism, attracting events, will help grow the state's economy and put us on the map. It's about the road and transport networks, including the widening of the M5, including building rail links into the northwest and the southwest, because they're the sorts of services that a modern world-class city has. And unless we can get those basics right, we have no hope of being that international destination, that place of opportunity that Sydney should be, once was, and can be again.
Right. Barry, a lot of hype has been made about the sale of power assets and states' power assets. And of course, the current Premier has called an early recess to Parliament to avoid scrutiny. What would be your plan to sell off power assets should you become the Premier?
Well, two things. We would never shut down Parliament early to avoid scrutiny. One of the great things that both India and Australia shares is a British parliamentary system that's based on accountability to the public. And what Christina Keneally and Eric Roosendahl did was engage in a very poor sale of the state's electricity assets, where we'll get less than 10% of what was claimed in return, and then shut Parliament early to stop accountability. We've said we'll have an open, independent, transparent judicial inquiry to get to the bottom of that sale, and to look to see how best we can go forward, respecting public interest, defending public value, with all options on the table, including the option of purchasing back.
Well, recently, $6.6 billion were made available for reforming the health system in Australia. Would you be happy to be part of it should you become the Premier?
I'd be very happy to be part of national health reforms, but only if they provide the benefits to this state that are warranted. So I want to make sure that some of the 1,500 hospital beds closed by Labor in this state that cause problems in our hospital departments on a Friday and a Saturday night are reopened as a result. But like Liberal and Labor premiers in other states, the agreement won't be finalised till the middle of the year, and if elected, what I'd be doing is looking at the details to make sure that what's being claimed to be the benefits will actually materialise to support doctors, nurses and communities across this city and state.
You have gone on record to oppose this carbon tax, which was announced by the Prime Minister, and you are obviously following the federal leader, Mr. Tony Abbott. How would you tackle the climate change without a tax?
Well, firstly, I don't follow Tony Abbott. I stand up for New South Wales families and New South Wales jobs. So before the carbon tax was announced, we'd already said that should the federal government impose a carbon tax, we would want compensation for our businesses and our families, because Labor's carbon tax has a double whammy. Puts upward pressure on power prices, $500 for a family power bill, $2,000 for a small business bill, but it also threatens jobs. If you apply a carbon tax, it means that our coal exports into India will be less competitive than other countries. That's crazy. It risks some of the Indian investment in coal mines in this country, in my view, because it makes our coal production dearer. We can't afford that. So we believe that you can tackle climate change in a number of ways. As Colin Barnett argues, one of the things you could do is ensure that your public transport or your buses ran on natural gas. That's a far more environmentally friendly fuel than the sources currently being used. So more direct action, more encouragement and use of government of its purchasing power to promote renewables. The parliament in which we sit only had solar panels put on it last year. We could and should have done that much earlier to demonstrate the benefits to people of solar power.
We all know that there are a lot of battlers who are doing it tough in the western part of Sydney especially, and the perception is that a coalition government would probably not deliver to western part of Sydney. It's a perception. How do you think that this perception is imagined wrongly, or what's your plan to tackle that?
Well, it's a perception that Labor has put out there, and I acknowledge that it exists. And equally, it's why, for instance, this week we announced a $100 million investment in roads in Western Sydney, roads that have been ignored by the state government for 16 years. The need to do something about the on and off ramps from the M4 at Penrith, the need to ensure that the Roper Street exit is also improved, the need to have that Werrington bypass that can make a difference to people's lives. So whether it's our commitments on roads, whether it's our commitments on hospitals, whether Blacktown Hospital and Nepean Hospital, we're going to put funds into it to improve better services, or whether our commitment to schools, additional literacy and numeracy teachers across all schools to provide better outcomes for students, because we all know that the best possible start to life people can get is by getting those basic building blocks of education. So in all of those areas, plus more, we are committed to people that live in Western Sydney, just as we're committed to people across this state. The Penrith by-election demonstrated that people in Western Sydney were prepared to put their trust and their vote in the hands of a Liberal Party. Stuart Ayres has been a good representative. We want to replicate that. We want to do that across the state, across Sydney, and in the process deliver those better services, those better futures, that strong economy that people want and deserve.
The last time we spoke, Barry, you saw the students issue, international students issue, especially Indian international students issue, hit the headlines. And you, of course, championed for a safer community, safer society. What you would assure the viewers, mostly many of them are Indian international students, that their stay here would be a pleasant one, safe one, and secure one?
Yeah, look, I just want to ensure that Indian students who are studying here know that under a Liberal national government they'd be welcome. We understand not just the significance of this to Indian students from overseas, but also it's significant for our economy. Overseas education earns more for this state and for this state's economy than agriculture. So it's a significant part of our economy, and whether it's housing, whether it's student concessions, whether it's safe communities, whether it's ensuring that overseas students aren't ripped off by landlords in accommodation, we want to ensure that we have a society in which they can live here, they can continue to come here, knowing that they're valued, knowing that they're protected, knowing that they have a strong future.
Barry, thanks for talking to Aussie Indian.
A pleasure, Raj. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.